In a small village nestled between the hills of East Africa, the sun rose over an ordinary morning. What made this day extraordinary was the beginning of a new chapter for the continent, a chapter stripped of corruption. The village of Ndlovu had long suffered under corrupt leadership, where officials siphoned off funds meant for schools, roads and healthcare. But hope flickered like the morning light in the hearts of the villagers as news of a powerful movement began to spread across the land, one that sought to eradicate corruption and empower the people. This movement, called Ushirikiano, which means collaboration in Swahili, aimed to unite communities to hold their leaders accountable. At the forefront of Ushirikiano was Amara, a tireless community organizer who had lived through the pain of corruption firsthand. She had watched her father suffer due to the lack of medical resources in the village, and she vowed to change her community's fate. Amara believed that the only way to ignite lasting change was through education and collaboration. She organized town meetings, encouraging everyone to speak up about the injustices they had faced. Slowly, the villagers began to find their voices. With Amara's guidance, they launched a campaign to document local corruption, filing reports and gathering evidence of misappropriated funds. The voices of Ndlovu began to echo beyond their hills, catching the attention of national and even international media. As the movement gained momentum, it sparked a wave of similar initiatives throughout Africa. Villages started forming their own Ushirikiano groups, sharing strategies and successes. They realized they were not alone. From the bustling streets of Lagos to the sun-drenched fields of Nairobi, people stood up against corruption in solidarity. Amara became a voice for the voiceless, soon invited to speak at conferences and forums where she shared her people's stories. She urged those in power to act responsibly, reminding them that authority is a privilege bestowed by the people, not a right held by the elite. In the heart of the capital, the government began to feel the tremors of change. Facing mounting pressure from civil society, national leaders convened a summit called Dawn of Accountability. Ordinary citizens were invited to present their findings, and to everyone's surprise, the government ministers listened. During that pivotal summit, a representative from Ndlovu stepped forward, holding a worn-out ledger filled with discrepancies tracing back months of stolen funds intended for basic community needs. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the room. The audience could see the trembling hands of a father who had lost a child due to lack of medical supplies. The innocent stories tugged at the hearts of even the most hardened officials. It was at this moment that the head of state, moved by the shared pain and anger, made a bold announcement. Today we draw a line in the sand. Enough is enough. We will implement strict anti-corruption measures, and every citizen will have a stake in how our resources are used. The applause that followed resonated across the hall, a symphony of hope and resolve. The government restructured accountability measures, focusing on transparency, decentralization of resources, and citizen involvement in decision-making. A task force was created, composed of both government officials and ordinary citizens, to oversee these reforms. As months turned into years, the impact of the Ushirikiano movement rippled through the nation. Funding for schools increased, infrastructure projects were completed on time and within budget, and healthcare services flourished. Families no longer had to choose between food and medicine. Young children regained their laughter, running through streets once filled with despair, their futures brighter than ever. Amara returned to Ndlovu to a hero's welcome. However, she remained humble, reminding everyone that their journey was a continuous one. "This is not the end," she said to a crowd gathered beneath the baobab tree. "It is the beginning of a new Africa, where our voices matter and together we rise." And so Africa began to rise, the end of corruption becoming a powerful catalyst for renewal. The continent stood united, a beacon of hope and progress, not just for itself, but for the world.